Okay, we're back. Let me see if I can get the music here in the background. Give me a second. Is it output capture? Desktop audio? I think that's good. I should be able to hear that behind me. Okay, so a couple things here just to kind of housekeeping stuff, and then we're going to get into this. So this stream is to do like a behind the scenes summary of my last piece, which is called Midnight Vigil. And that released this morning. I'll share my screen here and just give you a quick walkthrough. So this is the piece right here. And probably this one, again, humbled me more than anything else that I've done. I want to take you through it. I want to tell you what happened, share with you where we're at. There's an interesting lesson, I think, to be learned in this process that, well, for me at least, but maybe for others. So I'll walk through how I made it, what issues I ran into, kind of how we got here, and then I'll kill the stream, I'll kick it back up again, and we'll end up doing a brand new one for the next piece, which will be number 15, which I have a plan for. I'm just taking a peek here because it's so interesting. The title didn't update, so live on Twitter. I hear Grok's coming soon. I signed up for premium to get access to it just because I'm so fascinated with UX and UI and AI and all these things and how it all kind of comes together with the competition. So I'm in on Grok. Very curious. Okay, so let's get into the piece. So this is the final piece, obviously. It's, a ground level view of this launch. You can't really tell where it is. There's sort of a building, a center here on the left. There's the launch in the middle, and kind of behind the scenes for people that maybe are more into the series and kind of understanding what I'm doing. I'll show you how we got here, but I like the fact that people won't really realize what's happening, but there's so much context to this piece, like so much behind the fog, let's put it that way. And I want to show that before we move on. So first thing is the rocket is a slight interpretation of the original rocket that launched the Sputnik. So I was doing some research on this, and I think that the rocket name is the Volkov, or there's a series, I can't remember in Russian, it's like R7 or something, of a series of rockets. And it was the same series of rockets they used for quite a while, including the launch of Sputnik, which is the first sort of thing to space. And then there was the launch of the Volkov, which was the one that contained the astronaut that was the first astronaut in space. Growing up in Canada, it's kind of funny, we're such American influence. We talk about Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and, the first people to space or to the moon. We don't talk a lot about, that story of that first human to space. In fact, even the name, it's Yuri, and I can't even remember the last name. That's how bad it is. So we were heavily influenced by the U.S. perspective. And I think part of this is interesting to me because, obviously Russia's going through a lot in terms of public perception right now. And I don't want to comment on this politically, but from a space program standpoint, Russia was instrumental in a lot of things that we built upon, ultimately to get to space, ultimately to get to the moon, and all the other things that have happened since. So I think this is a cool way to kind of pay tribute a little bit to that and what they did. So the rocket itself is a modification, because if you look at the original one, the one that I got the model for, which is, this model is incredible. I paid a fortune for it, but it's pretty incredible. And I'll get the author's name, because shout out to them. It would took me weeks to just model this. It's really, really well done. But they're pulling in with the lighting, and I added a bunch of lighting to the actual rocket itself and the lights around it, the building, the atmosphere, kind of pulled this all together. But the model, unbelievable job by that artist. Now, I modified it slightly. You can't tell because I hit it, but if you look here, the middle rocket is actually lifted because the original rocket barely touches over top of this this little walkway. It looks puny. It doesn't look impressive. And I don't think, from a storytelling standpoint, this is meant to be not necessarily a view of that rocket. It was meant to be a future use of that rocket or rockets like that. So I think this one is better representative of the story that I'm telling. So it's just the same rocket, just lifted up the top. And then I didn't originally plan this. So let's walk backwards through how we got here. So I posted this on Twitter a couple days ago. And I can tell you that the night that I posted this was the cockiest and confident I've ever been as an artist. I went and got actual building data for the Balkanov. What is it, Balkanov? I'm gonna get the spelling, the name pronunciation right. Okay, Cosmodrome, Russia. Baikonur? I think it's Baikonur is how you say it. Yeah, the Baikonur Cosmodrome. So I went and got the actual building data for the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Russia, including all the building data present day, which includes satellite imagery of where the launch sites were, which is right here. And I pulled that data into Blender and I merged it with this location, which is one that I scouted and thought about, went on Google Earth, really put a lot of effort into thinking about like where this Cosmodrome could be relocated, because the original locations in Kazakhstan, it's very flat, not interesting, not good from a storytelling standpoint. So I wanted to imagine a world where this got moved. And I ended up like going and using ChatGPT and researching and coming up with an entire backstory for why this location is here. And then I basically grabbed that imagery, grabbed the terrain, brought it in, added some light and sky, and just dropped it. And at this point, I was like, damn, this is going to be the shot. We're going to put the rocket launch facility here. We'll put some building detail. We'll cover this in snow. We'll add a bunch of texture detail to the mountains, which I've done before. We'll, fix up the lighting, add some depth, and we're going to have like a sick render. And in fact, I even went to ChatGPT and I went and got, see if I can find this here. I generated a concept art, and this concept art was so good that it was like, okay, let me go backwards. This is my renders that I've done. So you're seeing like, this is work that I've actually made. And I asked ChatGPT to like create work in that style that it had previously given me for this Cosmodrome. And this is what it gave me, like not really good. So it's like, okay, I felt good about, okay, this is the difference. Now, this took me months to make. So this was like, okay, I was feeling confident though that I could make something quickly with this Cosmodrome. So this is like original one it sent, this is pretty cool, a little cartoonish, but pretty nice. And then I gave it one of Haseda Head Lighthouse, which again, pretty good, a little cartoonish. One of Fuji, which is pretty cool. But the original was incredible. So I gave it this, I kind of gave it some options, but this is what it generated. And like, when I tell you that I've been staring at this image because I was like, okay, it actually has aspects of the Khan Tengri, which is this location that I imagined. So this is like a really prominent peak. This all comes into the story here in a second, but this location it's on the border of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and China. So it's a very, very interesting location, and it's a very prominent peak. The actual nickname is Lord of the Skies, which is like so applicable now that I'm kind of looking at this and it all fits together. It's like this happy accident. It's unreal when I tell the story. So I was like, this is it. Other than like this thing, we got the mountains in the background, we got the big moon. It looks, even though it's fake, it looks cool. And then what I was really paying attention to is the texturing. How the rocks of the mountain had this like flow, this artificial flow coming down as if, the artist just painted lines from the top of the peak to the bottom. And then the snow, is kind of following the contours in the mountains pretty well. So you can see it here. It's in this like concave area, kind of follows some of the crevices in the mountain. It's actually, from like an AI standpoint, it really does like a pretty incredible job. Like even you look here, there's almost like a glacier area forming. The rocks, the texturing looks great. And then as you get down, you get, these green areas that are kind of grass. And then you get the trees. And then obviously it turns into the roads and things. Like this is Dolly. And I have never seen Dolly produce an image this good. I've tried it 100 times. I've done stuff way better in Midjourney, but this image is like, it's stuck to my brain. It transformed me in a way, because I was like, okay, even like look at the way that, the trees here, even though the perspective feels off, it fits. The clouds that kind of cover up this area on the side, and then like the pebbles, like there's really only, one texture, maybe two textures, 3, 4, and I would say 5. This is a little different, although it's kind of similar to what's over here. So let's say 5 textures plus the roads and the facility. And I was like, I'm obsessed. I'm going to come up with how to make this style. Because if I can create to this level of kind of feeling of realism, but like more focused on artistic instead of like photorealistic, but real world data and location, I'm like, I think this could be kind of how my style would adapt and evolve. I was obsessed. So I was like, okay, here we go. We're making this image, brought everything in, and I started to like lay it out. And the first step was I got here and I was like, I feel great. Like just the general layout wasn't exactly what we had. I think I generated this after, but I was like, okay, I'm going to texture this, move the camera. This is very close to what I wanted. And then I got humbled, and I got humbled really bad, to the point where like I was, for a couple days, I was like really wondering like what my path out of this was. Like I really have never quite felt this down as an artist, because the results that I was getting was just so bad. I couldn't like even, almost like I couldn't reproduce what I had even achieved to date. Even though it'd taken me a lot longer to make that stuff, I felt like I lost my ability to even understand like the basic concepts of landscapes. Give me 2 seconds with the dog. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm here. Yeah, so like I lost my kind of confidence in my ability to generate landscapes, which I've been doing for, the last year and a half, and, feel pretty comfortable. Now, what got crazy was like I use Gaia, which is like such an improvement over my previous process, which was using something called World Creator. But I kind of do the same thing. I start with terrain and I add a bunch of detail to make it look realistic. And then I export it to Blender and I kind of texture it and organize it to make my scene. And I just like, no matter what I did, it just looked bad. So I'm going to open up a few of the earlier examples. This is mostly for me. I mean, I just kind of want to document this process. See where I can open up some files where it was like early on. Okay, this might be, so I think this was like the original, that I kind of was very confident at, because I had the building data in. Yeah, I had the building data in. I had very low res terrain, but I felt like the composition was good. I could picture it. I kind of see like, okay, even if I went to like this kind of camera, 1920 by 1080, even if I went to like this, I could kind of zoom it out. I kind of felt like, okay, I can get something very similar to this, which was what really inspired me, what I was really pumped about, I wanted to do. So then I get into Gaia and I start like looking at the data. So here's the actual terrain data that I brought into Gaia. And then I take it through a bunch of like procedural steps. So I like add some thermal erosion to it, some alluvium, some more erosion. And eventually I end up with this. And like, okay, this is looking really good. Like here's, this area is a little bit modified from what it was, but this is the original area that I had. And if you kind of look at the detail of the terrain, this is even at 2K, and I usually export at 4K or 8K. Look at the difference. Like bumpy, kind of flat terrain, not a lot of detail, to like, this is really nice. And it has that same kind of flow and texture. I'm like, hey, when we texture this thing, we can just get like all these little kind of flow that goes through. And again, this is low resolution. When you export it, you get even higher. So I'm like super pumped. And then I start to experiment with snow. So I drop the snow in, and I even look at like the sunlight. So the way that this tool works is super cool, actually. Oh, I think I lost my, hold on, docs. Okay, I think it's running. Oh, hey, Ian. Yeah, you'll kind of enjoy this. It's like freaking kind of a funny situation. But I'm walking through the steps. So I did the snow and I was like, okay, it looks all right, but like it doesn't look super realistic. I played with the settings. This is like assuming the sun hits it from this angle. It melts, you get a bit of snow here. I was like, okay, it was all right. It felt decent. So then I started to like create the colors. So you create, let's see, the basic rock formation here. Let's see if I have what else combined. So I think this is grass. No, this is, basic rock combined together to make like something a little bit nicer. This one I think is the grass. I can never be sure. Oh, it's going to take a while. Oh yeah, this is based on growth. So this is like a complicated thing, but it created some grass variants based on where like shrubbery and greens would grow. So it's just calculating right now. I'll bring this up to full screen here in a second. There we go. So it just kind of creates like just a bit of texture, and you can see the darker spots are where it would kind of imagine there being potential shrubbery. It doesn't take into account elevation, but it kind of does these like cool little patches, which is kind of neat from a color standpoint. So let's go bring this over here so you guys can see this. And then I merge that together, right? So now you got some nice grass and some nice rock. And then I brought that together with the snow. And now looking at this, I think the snow is where I went wrong. And I honestly don't know what I did wrong here. I'm going to have to try to figure it out. But I think I did a different technique where I, instead of using like a snow mask to texture, I think I just used the original snow texture. I don't know. I did something wrong, because you can see like this looks really good to me. Like I kind of look at this and go, oh, this is really nice. And then you get into the snow and it starts to lose, to me, like realism. Like something's off about this. So anyway, like I exported all my height maps, all my details, and I brought it into Blender. And I'm confident, other than the snow thing, which now maybe in retrospect was the issue, but I'm a little rushed because I'm not taking multiple days to do this like I would. I'm like, all right, we can get a terrain in here quick, fix this up. So let me show you what it looked like. It's kind of interesting. It's probably somewhere in one of these ones. Let's sort of go through my order of images until we find it. This might have just been so hard to know what I was doing at the time. I don't. This is terrain 1, terrain 2. Let me just fire this up, see what this looks like. There's one specifically where yeah, no, this is the same. Let's go one more. 1.3. Maybe this one. This music is crazy. Let's get some lo-fi going. It's like Top Gun music. Hopefully this is okay. I just need some like background. This like not hopefully this is okay. Nope, that's not it. One of these days I'm going to remember to, well, I usually try to keep a version, but I need a better system. It just helps me because sometimes I'll like work on something. This might be it. No. Maybe I did in the morning. 1.5. No. Damn. Okay. Try one more quick time. See if maybe I hid the terrain. Interesting. I might have rage quit on it. To be honest, it's possible. It's going to be in here, but it's not going to be the same layout. But anyway, I can show you guys anyway. It's going to be probably in here somewhere. Maybe not. Damn. Damn. I don't know if I'll be able to find it now. It's gonna... Maybe this was it. Yeah, this is it. Because I was working... Yeah, okay. So I was working in a separate file just to see with the terrain itself by itself. Okay. This might do it. Let's see what comes up here. Must be this, but something seems off. I must have joined something together. Oh, yeah, okay. I think... I won't stick to this too long if I can't figure it out. It's not here. I might have rage quit. I probably rage quit on it because I was so frustrated. That sounds like something I would do. Anyway, I'll just describe it. Like, it just, I could bring it in now and show you, but like, it looks so unrealistic, so bad with the snow. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get anything that looked right. And I added like fog. I put the sun different. I tried everything. And I couldn't get it, and I was banging my head against the wall. So finally, after some amount of time, I just said, okay, like let's just focus on the launch site and let's see kind of what we can come up with there, and then we'll sort of work on the terrain after. So this kind of shows a little bit of where my head was at. I was like, okay, I'm going to get the launch site. So I went out and got this like incredible model. Say I paid a lot for it, but it was worth it. Basically, it's like a model of the original launch site for the Sputnik 1. So original launch site Sputnik, because it's got a cool name, the launch site. So this is 1957. They called the original location, this is the Sputnik. They called it, yeah, this is the R7 rocket. So you can see it here. It's got this, like, the fact that it's kind of short with the big thrusters. Just, it looks odd when you put it in the actual render. Where was it launched? I gotta sometimes remember to do all this. I gotta remember to do a better job. It's called Pad 1. I don't know where I would have the imagery of it. So funny how my brain is like just out to lunch. I had all this. I don't know where I wrote it down. There was like a Wikipedia article. That's what it is, Pad 1. Okay, so there's this launch pad called Pad 1, Gagarin Start, which is like where they launched that first rocket. And I was able to like find the location, like locate it exactly where it was, in the Cosmodrome, so down this road. I went and got that exact location. I brought it into Blender, sitting on top of the terrain. And then I got this model, which is kind of how the launch site was, with these like 4 lights around it, this huge pit, these 2 antennas. And I started to kind of lay it out in here. And as I was like kind of doing that, it was originally the same idea, that same, following my same shot, the same one in here, right? And sort of like set up the camera very close. I put this little like facility in here kind of as an afterthought, because I was like, I want like a building coming out and going into the rocket. That's it. Like I just kind of wanted to add something interesting to it. So I put that building in, which is an asset from Kitbash, from Cargo. Super cool. Again, pay a fortune for it, but asset site. So I kind of dropped this in. I started to lay it out, but again, this freaking mountain range was driving me nuts. No matter what I did, it looked awful. Let's see what this looks like now. I remember where I left this. Yeah, I was experimenting here with kind of like masking it by bringing in these like really cool, getting like lots of fog and light. This might be some of the texture, but like, look, like the mountains just looked awful and behind. The only thing that was kind of funny from this was I kept like looking at this and laughing, like it kind of looked like the rocket, just like this little thing sticking out. But I was like, this is going to look bad. Like, unless I get proper texturing all around this, it just wasn't going to work. So I was like, okay, what do we do? So I kept like trying different things. And eventually I got somewhere around, it's kind of cool because we have the history, like yesterday, let's say version 1.8, let's see where this was. Yeah, at some point I was like, okay, we're moving down low. And I kind of just like experimented with the camera and I moved it down to the launch pad. And as soon as I did it, it kind of clicked, because I was like, all right, now we have this like bigger rocket that you kind of like get the perspective of. It feels like impressive. The lights kind of like hanging over top are crazy because of how big they are. And then the building was like, okay, this kind of looks more interesting sitting on the side. And then when I started to add experiments to get the light beams coming from the lights around, you have to add added atmosphere. So this is kind of how it looks, just standard. You don't see the light coming from these lights to the rocket. It lights up, but you don't see the beam. And I was like, I really think the beam going into the rocket would be powerful. Kind of highlight the rocket, all the leading lines. It just felt right. So when I started to add a lot of atmosphere, which is probably, somewhere around here, my stupid brain was just like, oh, you're an idiot, Matt. Like, focus on the story that matters, right? Like, what is more important here, the rocket at this point or like your location? Highlight the rocket, and then all of a sudden the background, you don't need it. And this is going to take forever to load. You don't see it, but if you go back to my original image, once we brought this into color grading, you can see that the bloom, the light from this really helps kind of sell this story, right? Of this rocket just kind of like ominously sitting on this launch pad. And it kind of was like a big lesson for me, because when you're doing this stuff, especially when you're starting a series, and I think that my project has kind of been broken into series, right? Like I'll pick a location and then I'll start to work on the piece, but I spend so much time on like the background because it's so technical and usually requires real world data, that I end up with like spending more time on the thing that people don't even really see. It's not the star of the story. And if I had just gone back again and just said, let's get the rocket right, let's really focus on the rocket and then decide what's the best way to tell that story, I would have been done probably a day earlier. The happy accident was that by, fighting with this and forcing myself to come up with an idea, I moved myself down to ground level, which is where like this concept over here really started to come into play. It was like, okay, this building actually gets really interesting once you start to think about how the launch works. So I ended up with this 2.0. And with 2.0 is pretty much the same here. Actually, let's go one back, 1.10. This was the funnel. So let's close this. So this is the funnel. It was kind of fix this tree at the end. This video, again, where is the funnel name? But if you bring the exposure down on this, you kind of see. Ignore this because this is kind of just the denoiser in Blender working. This is with the noise. You can just watch it slowly build the scene. And it takes like, an hour of rendering, and eventually it clears up. What's going on is I'm kind of in the middle of a 30-day art project. I'm trying to do a new piece every day, but I'm a little bit behind. It's all kind of themed together into a story that I'm telling. There's already 15 pieces that are done. You can find them all here. CAFO. So you can find all of the links to all the pieces here. I'm just going to get my chat going. So these are the pieces going all the way through. There's half of them are videos, half of them are animations or videos, half of them are still renders. And I just sort of work away at this every day and kind of continue the story and build on top of it. I specialize in using real world data. So I use something from reality to kind of incorporate into the story and the picture. And we're just kind of working through this process. So we're here at 14. This is the one we just completed. Again, some of these are, photos. Some of these are videos like this one. Click it. It's a full video. It's kind of walking through this patio. And then, thank you, Paperly. Appreciate it. And then we look through this little telescope and boom, we see the moon. There's music on this one too. You can have it, hear it, comes into focus. Let me take an image. So that was like one of the days. And then the next day we actually did the full res version of the moon, which is this one right here. So every piece is available for sale for basically $30 US or 0.0169 ETH. They're minted on blockchain, so they're, you can see everything, all the details there, the metadata, and they'll all be available in high res, so you can use them for prints or for backgrounds or whatever. So these are all the pieces. So we're currently here, and I'm just kind of recapping how I got here because I went through a bit of a mental struggle to get to this piece or get this done. So if you have questions, contacts, hit me up, but I'll just sort of finish my speech and then we'll get into making some more stuff. So anyway, so we set up the scene, we got the fog in, we did the whole deal. Yeah, thanks, Ian. I appreciate it. You know context too, right? So this is actually means something to you. Okay, so here's the happy accident, right? Is the thing that I realize is that by using this asset, which is actually mind-blowingly incredible. I can't even tell you. This is Kit Bash, right? And, I'll never in probably my artistic career model a building like this. If the whole project was modeling one building, I'm sure I could eventually get it done. But what I really am kind of learning, I think, as an artist, and I'm starting to kind of get into is like, if there's another artist that has made something and I can pay for it, which I think is the key, like I'm buying it and then incorporate it into my work or modify it in some way, I think it kind of like, it fits the whole ecosystem, right? And it kind of connects everything together. I don't know how the monetary side of this worked, but somebody modeled this. Maybe a team modeled this, and now it's available as an asset. And I can't even tell you how impressed I was because, from an outside building, you're like, okay, like I lit up this a little bit. I made some changes. It's like, okay, this is pretty cool. It's like, Explore Expo on it. It's got these kind of cool entrances. If we switch over to just like this view, this is just the shader view. It'll take a second. Like, hey, it's pretty cool, outside, steps, see some of the building. What's crazy though is when you go inside and you realize like it's empty, but like there's a full building here. Ground level basement, upper level, there's walkways. This is the main auditorium area. There's no detail, but there's actually, full building. You can go out to the lobby, you can go in here and, I can even fly around this. Oh, that didn't work very well. Probably my view. Yeah. 0.1 to 50. And then fly mode. Yeah, so, you have like a real building. And this is where like I had my aha moment, because when I put a camera inside of here, I suddenly realized like, oh, you can see the launch site, right? Like if you go in here, you can actually scroll to this window and you can actually, it's super foggy, but you can actually see the rocket outside. And that's like my aha moment of like, holy crap, you don't need to try to do everything one yourself. There's aspects of this where like the composition, the story, the combination, the modifications are going to be what makes this unique. It's not I sitting here modeling this building for, 6 weeks. It's not the point. The point is to tell a story, to, create something, make people feel something, connect, all of the different things that I'm doing. So yeah, this was kind of a cool moment. And I was like, this is really cool. I mean, I started to think about a whole story, honestly, related to this. And because, I basically put the camera here and kind of put this building in as just like a side thing, it just opened up this whole world of like, what is going on at this facility. And I had already thought about it and named it and done a bunch of cool stuff, but I don't know, it got me even more excited about the ability to tell this story. So let me just pop in here. First of all, this music is... I usually have these like playlists that I can hit. I don't know where they went. And they're usually pretty good for... Where's this one? I'll just go to my go-to. I don't know. Afrofuturism looks cool. Let's see what that does. Yeah. Anyway, I got it pumped. So then I started kind of imagining the story, and this is what it looks like. I'm pretty excited about it. Same location, and this building is called the Contengri, and I found out after that the actual name or nickname of this mountain is Lord of the Skies, which is like so perfect. This location is strategically on the border of Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan and China. For me, kind of symbolizes a bit of like a joint China-Russia space collaboration, which there is a real one that happens. I think it's signed until 2027 or something like that. And I started thinking like, how cool would it be to kind of create like a replica of the original, Russian launch kind of in this facility. And what kind of happened, which really got me excited, was I realized that like the sight lines for this building were incredible. And I'll show you some of them in a second. But I started thinking a little bit about how the rocket might work. And I realized that like this building was so symmetrical, and it actually has like, it's one of the craziest coincidences like I think I've ever come across as an artist. Like literally there's the rail that this actual rocket moves on. So the rocket would like get moved onto this track, and it would get pushed out to the launch facility. And the actual track fits perfectly in this building to the point where even if you go in the building and you go under, there was like this extra weird gap underneath the building that was like almost perfect to run the rail through. So then I was like, oh, this is such a cool idea, because what you could do is you could have this like rocket and the building on the track. I know this is like sci-fi fantasy stuff, but it gets kind of fun. And like the rocket and the building could actually come out of this, what is now kind of a cave situation, be hidden in the mountains. So, if you look out above, you wouldn't even see it. And this is all real world data. This is like a real location. And you would access it from over here. And basically it would go underneath, and then it would come out for the launch. And what's even cooler is that the building could come out like this and be sitting here while they're prepping, they're getting the rocket fueled up, all the ceremonies, everything. And then the actual building itself could basically slide back as the rocket goes. And then the whole thing could take off. And you could watch that, they could have it from back here, or you could even, we could modify this in the future and have like kind of a viewing area maybe up here in the rocks that you could look out on, which is sort of another idea. But like a little platform up here, and you'd have like a whole facility inside of this, inside of this crater. And the scale is all crazy. Like this is massive, and but anyway, the idea is that, and it's just, it fit so perfectly to be able to, basically move both the rocket and this on the thing. And then what's really cool about this model is that they rigged it. If we hit pose mode and we grab one of these rigs, I think one of them's broken. Yeah, this one's broken. So that used to open up across, but this one works. So if we bring it this way, it actually rigs properly for the rocket launch. And you could do that when this one gets fixed. This would open up as well. So we actually could animate a rocket launch and actually have it, taken off. Then it got crazy because I realized that basically the building was lined up right in the mountain was lined up in the back. So if you look at it from this perspective, you have like really crazy symmetry. You have the building, the rocket, and the mountain that basically are lined up, give or take, which is really cool and symbolic. and creates like a pretty incredible photo, other than the fact that, again, this mountain looks like crap right now. But you can see it here when this launches, right? So you can kind of see the vision for this building with all the lighting on the track. You know, textures obviously are all messed up. There's no texture on the mountain, but you can imagine if we get really cool texturing on this mountain, how impressive this scene would look. And, you know, you could go all the way back into here and see it. You know, you can shoot it from wherever. And I even started moving cameras around to see what we get. So I had, let's see, this was the main hall. So this is the view from inside the building, which is what we're probably going to work on today. This is one from outside. So this is like kind of look like a shopping mall, like walking up to the entrance of the building, which would be kind of like a cosmoport. And you get the mountain range in the background, the rocket you can see above it. And then what's super cool is the track, how the track basically runs right down the middle. And then the building, you know, would move on the track. I put one up here. So this is kind of a cool spot that they had this sort of observation deck that was set up in the file, but it was very basic. It didn't have any detail to it. So I just kind of was messing around with what it might look like. And I just sort of dropped down this like flat platform. I'm going to can work on this later and then put a camera in here, and this is what it looked like. So you would see like the mountain range behind, the lights, the launch facility, and the full view of the rocket. So you can imagine like how cool it would be to sit up here and look out. This would be kind of like a primary viewing location for the public. And then I put one down here, which I thought was kind of cool because you could see the mountain in the background and just the bottom of the rocket. It gives you kind of a sense of scale of the rocket outside, and you're just sort of sitting in this like empty room. And then this was my original spot. It was kind of over here, right? So this is obviously a 4x5, but you can see the buildings in the background of the mountains, but there's no fog. So it's like the story to me totally got kind of created from this building, because now you have this like, you know, state-of-the-art facility set up in the middle of the mountains in a very strategic spot between Russia and China. It's like pretty much impossible to get to. You do get there, you know, it's hidden inside of a mountain, which is super like sci-fi, you know, villain kind of stuff. And then it has this sort of like launch facility that's like perfectly inside of the mountain range, crazy views, the symbolics of the Contangri Mountain with the Lord of the Skies. Like it all just was like, this is crazy. So I went to ChatGPT and I told it what I was working on. And I actually got it to really do some cool stuff. So I got it to, we named it, we came up with names, and then I ended up settling on just the Bakhmur Tengri, because when I found out that Tengri meant Lord of the Skies, it was perfect. Like Bakhmur doesn't have any meaning. They said it was Kazakh orning, no definition. Could mean rich, could mean brown. They didn't really know. But basically the Bakhmur Tengri Cosmodome or Cosmoport was what I went with. And then I had it create mission patches. So this is the mission that we're sort of like highlighting. The Exodus is going to be called. So this is really cool. Kind of was pumped, and it missed some of the text, but like as a template, it was kind of a cool little patch that it made. And then the logo is what I was pumped about. So the Bakhmur Tengri Cosmoport. And other than the fact that the numbers were slightly wrong, it's supposed to be 2037, I think, to 2054. I think that was the idea. I have to look it up. It's kind of like going to be at the end of that partnership with Russia and China to 2054, which is kind of the year that this whole story gets set in. I was pretty pumped about this. So I'm going to use this in this work. And then it did this, which I thought was cool. It missed it obviously, but I liked the kind of the font idea. So I was going to expand on that. And then it gave me like a ton of stuff. Like we have like an overview of all the facilities, all the information. It generated some other artwork. There's the, well, that was the original one I uploaded. Keep coming back with different ones. The names, came up with more patches. Some of these are pretty cool. But yeah, this one I like too. Exodus to Orbit, which I really like the artwork of this one. And if you're following, you kind of like maybe know a little bit of the story behind this, but I try not to get into crazy detail because there is some kind of fun in learning it. But like this is all intentional. There is a full story that I'm trying to portray through this work. Okay, so all that being said, we have some more pieces we're going to work on. And the current plan is to start with a simple render of the rocket from inside the building. And I want to do like a welcome center kind of vibe, like some basic information about the facility and the launch. So what I'm thinking is using this view, which I modified the floors and stuff to kind of make the sight lines a little better. But this view here, like even this view is awesome, right? So you can kind of see how when we can actually add some terrain in here and add detail and like fix up the texturing on all this, like this will become, metal. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff to do. You can really though picture how cool of even a shot this would be. The problem I have right now is I do not want to get caught in like an 8-hour exercise in creating these mountains. So I may try it tonight to see if I can get a better quality out of it. But if not, I'm going to focus more on the story and then I'll come back to this mountain stuff like some point in the series or, when I'm done. But the shot that I'm working on today is this one. So what I'm thinking is keep this sort of long perspective, and I just have to block out and figure out where to put kind of like a welcome center, like a kiosk. So I'm almost picturing a shot like this within the foreground, like a main area where you would get like all the information and it not going crazy. I want to put the slogan on this part, Lord of the Skies. So I want to do a cool, probably like a light colored neon or some type of like lit up, but subtle sign here. Here, let's just bring this into annotate mode. Right, so this sign would go here. So that's the sign. We would want to put like the logo somewhere on this. I don't know if maybe we would add some skylighting up here and maybe do like the night sky, the stars. I haven't decided whether it's going to be day or night, but we got to figure out, day or night on this one. And then this kiosk, I have to think about camera angle and perspective because I don't really want to block this. Either move the camera to the side or put it in the middle. I haven't quite figured it out, but somewhere down here is the kiosk. Wait. Logo. Right? Logo. And that's it. And I guess 4 we'll just put up here, atmosphere. Right? So we decide on the atmosphere, put the logos in, put a sign, put the kiosk, that's it. And now because we did all the work before, we set up the lighting on the rocket, we lined up the building, we did all that. Now we can tell the story further without having to do a ton of, extra work, which is what I've been trying to get nailed in this series. I just keep falling into this trap of like not using the resources I have or not being happy and trying to improve it. And in this case, because you can't see the mountains, I'm not even worrying about them. So this is going to be like deferring the thinking about the mountains at all until either the next shot maybe, or maybe not at all. The next shot that I was thinking, which I'm not 100% sure yet, is either going to be like after this one, he's either going to be moving the camera up to like an observation deck. But again, I don't want to necessarily require the mountains to be perfect as part of it. So maybe it's low again. Haven't quite decided. But I want to see if we can do the smoke simulation. So if we could actually have the rocket lifted off, so we'll open up the whole thing and have the rocket going with like the full smoke volumetrics coming out. That's what I'd like to do for the next one. And then after that, we're moving on to something else. We're going to go into space in the story. So these are kind of like the last 2, potentially 3 shots from Earth. And then after that, we're pretty much in space for the rest of this thing. Okay, so this is good. We're going to save this as a new project. Even though, you know, this is kind of reusing the same stuff. I think this is a habit. Welcome center. And I don't know what we'll end up. Usually I just name these and then I come up with like a better name as we go. Source 2. Source. Working. Output. Archive. Now, I hate to do this, but I'm going to stop the stream, which I think this is the most people I've had on YouTube since I started, which is crazy. So welcome. Thank you for joining if you're coming in from YouTube. I got to stop the stream because I want to get a fresh, like archive this as the how it was made for the previous and a fresh one starting for this. I don't know if it kicks you guys out or if it's going to just end. But if you refresh the page literally in 5 seconds after I end it, the stream's going to come back. So my hope is that it's going to just work. But yeah, I'm going to kill the stream. I'm going to start the new project and we're going to be back in, I mean, literally it'll take 30 seconds. Okay. Hopefully you guys come back. If not, appreciate you guys and join again.